Take two.
It's just 7 o'clock anyhow, guys, so we're
Yeah.
cool.
Right.
Bye,
No,
Mark.
no,
No,
it's
that's
1
slow.
minute.
That one's a little bit slow. That's slow. I got 701.
I got 7:01 also.
Okay. I'd like to welcome everyone to the Madison Fire District's regular meeting, August 18th, 2021 at 7 p.m. Roll call, please.
Mr. Adams.
Here.
Mr. Anderson.
Here.
Mr. Gontner.
Here.
Mr. Lee.
Present?
Mr. Vest.
Here.
Mr. Wayman.
Mr. Wayman had another commitment. He won't be here this evening. Would everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Would everyone please join me in a moment of silence? Thank you. May I have a motion for the approval of the minutes for the regular meeting, 7/21 of 21?
Do
Is
we
there a
have that
motion?
A second then.
I'm sorry, you had to.
I
Did
didn't
somebody
hear.
second it?
You first?
First?
Okay, first, then,
Is there a second?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Adams.
Yes.
Mr. Anderson.
Yes.
Mr. Gontner.
Yes.
Mr. Lee.
Yes.
Mr. Vest.
yes.
May I have a motion to approve the minutes for the special meeting on 8/11 of 21?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Is there a second?
And a second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Gontner.
Yes.
Mr. Lee.
Abstain?
Mr. Vest.
Yes.
Mr. Adams.
Yes.
Mr. Anderson.
Yes. May I have a motion for the approval of the bills and payroll for July of 2021? Bills $36,399.37. Payroll $208,962.55 for a total of $245,361.92. Ms. Clapp, do you have anything on?
The only thing, so you know, payroll was a 3-month payroll. That's why it is so high.
Any questions for Ms. Clapp? Mr. Gardner, you have anything?
No, sir, I don't.
Anybody? Mr. Vest?
Nope, not at all, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Move on to the.
motion for that?
Oh, yes, motion, thank you. Do I have a motion?
Yeah, that motion.
Yeah. Is there a second? No further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Anderson.
Yes.
Mr. Gontner.
Yes.
Mr. Lee.
Yes.
Mr. Vest.
Yes.
Mr. Adams.
Yes.
Okay, for July 2021 financial report, Ms. Clapp.
Sure. Okay, we're looking at the July fund summary report. We started July with $5,271,187.43. Our month-to-date revenue was $555,734.20. The reason that is a little higher is because we had our $500,000 property tax advance. Our year-to-date revenue is $3,043,451.52. Again, our month-to-date expenditures was $245,361.92. Our year-to-date expenditures is $1,686,580.81. So we started August with $5,581,559.71.
Any questions for Ms. Clapp?
So you know, the reason when you're looking at the budget and the Ohio OPERS is out of whack is because we have our one part-time firefighter that pays into that.
Right.
And due to his hours, it did that. And starting in August, our wages are coming back out of the fire side portion. That's all I have.
Any questions?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, just for a quick question, Joanne, on the current reserve for encumbrances under fire and rescue, ambulance, and EMF service, we have encumbered $45,163. Do you know what that's for?
That is those are purchase orders for vehicle repairs and supplies.
Okay,
And that.
okay. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. Come to the open public portion. I don't think we have anybody. Okay. Come to legal counsel, Ms. Dame.
The only thing I have is I did prepare the resolution for the Juneteenth holiday as recorded
Okay, we'll move into old business. We talked about the driveways last week, or at the special meeting real quick. Anybody, Chief, anything, any more on that, or?
Pod Group did a good job. I don't know about you, but it feels a whole lot better driving in here.
And it looks a whole lot better.
Looks a whole lot better. Unfortunately, this is one of those public turnarounds, and it didn't take long for somebody to pull in and drive right through the topsoil at the edge of the driveway, so we're gonna have to do a little bit of maintenance, but.
You did it again today?
Did it- Yes, today was a school bus going out.
Oh, is that what it was?
Yeah, the school
Yeah,
buses
so-
apparently use this too, so. No, we're very happy with it. They did a nice job.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman? if I
Yes,
could-
sir.
Hey, Chief, one thing I was looking at it tonight when I got out of the car, and something maybe to think about in next year's budget is getting the parking lot restriped out there. The white lines are disappearing quickly, and by next spring, they probably won't be real visible. But
Right.
it's not a big ticket item, but just something to throw in the budget.
No, I think we actually have some of that we can do here because we striped the base, so we can probably
Oh,
take care of
okay.
that.
If you can do it in-house, that's great.
Yeah.
Okay,
We'll find somebody that's got a good straight eye.
for sure.
Two boards works fine.
Yeah, the handicaps marking in front of the building is almost gone too, so. Anyway. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Cutler.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Also, too, we mentioned Station 2's bathroom renovation and dorm addition. The advertisement for the bids were sent out on 8/12 and 21, and they were in the paper on 8/14, which anybody wants to see, I have a copy of it and everything else. Anybody have any questions on that you want to bring up or mention, or?
Hey, Mr. Chairman, I'll just
Yes.
mention, Lori was kind enough to send me a copy of the ad, and I had it put up on the township website as well. The legal ad's on there, in case anybody's interested, it's on our website. And I did get an email, the chief and I got an email today from Andrew Torowski, who's the architect. And Chief, he's gonna be dropping off a set of drawings of Station 2 at our office on Hubbard, so I'll make sure when those get dropped off, I told Tim to let me know, and we'll get them to you.
Okay.
So we should have the drawings and specs tomorrow.
Okay, thank you. Chairman. Yes, sir.
I also talked to Andrew. We talked about the timeline and pushing it back. They are concerned as to whether or not we'll have bidders because of the job, and he said that they're seeing people that are typically bidding and things are taking twice as long because apparently the contractors can't find people to work either. So we talked about us pushing that date back, which he thought was a good idea because we don't want to pinch people because we might not get anybody. They will have to buy the prints through CT, and he'll let me know, if anybody comes in and picks them up, he's going to email me and let me know, and I'll make sure the board knows the number of people we have that at least pulled the prints or the plans to bid.
Okay.
I think, Chief, if he does that, he has to do it he has to do some sort of addendum, though, to extend it, I believe.
Say, remember we talked about pushing that date back a week when at the last meeting, we were initially going to do it like the 8th or something, and we decided to go
Right.
back. Yeah, he actually thought that was a pretty good idea
Oh,
because.
okay, I thought he was talking about pushing even.
No,
further
he was,
back from
he
there.
was
Okay.
concerned about the time and whether or not we'd have people that bid. So he thought that was probably a wise idea on the board's part. So I'll let you guys know if anybody at least buys the plans so that we know that somebody's looking at it.
Any other questions?
No.
Okay. Move on to new business. Consider Resolution 2121. Mrs. Dame.
Resolution number 21-21 is a resolution recognizing June 19th, which is also known as Juneteenth, as a holiday.
Is there a motion for Resolution 21-21?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Lee?
Yes.
Mr. Vest? Mr. Adams?
I know, you don't have to know, I was just thinking.
Oh, sorry.
I didn't mean no, I mean yes, but, yes, let's just go with that. I'm just somebody, I just think about 911, and it hasn't been recognized, and, 3,000 Americans died, so just hard for me, okay?
Understand?
Mr. Adams?
Yes.
Mr. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Gauntner?
I agree with Mr. Vest, but I'll vote yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yep. No further, we'll move on to Chief's report. Chief Baker?
Yes, sir. You all got a copy of the chief's report. Couple things. Lieutenant Van Kramer just completed 34 years. Lieutenant Henry, 22 years. Inspector Salamosi, 2 years. I do regret to inform the board that we did, in the last 2 weeks, receive resignation letters from 2 part-timers. About a month prior, we received one from a third, so we've lost 3 or 4 part-timers in the last month and a half. Firefighter Rudy Graham, after 27, I believe it was, or 28 years, resigned. We accepted a letter from firefighter Doug Rott, who's been with us for 10 years, and we accepted a resignation letter from firefighter Bud Zicki, who I can't tell you how many years, I think it was 7 this time, but he was here with us previously. A lot of life changes, a lot of people busy, a lot of folks with full-time jobs getting overtime at other jobs. I will tell the board that we had an officers meeting, and one of the topics of discussion was, what do we do? Because we don't have applicants. For whatever reason, and I'm sure Mr. Adams sees that at Painesville, and I know the township trustees have talked about it within their own police departments. Our options are beginning to get thin, and I think at some point we may have to look at other options of staffing, because we depend on about 50% of our staff being part-time. Our part-time staff is now down to probably 60% of what it was, and the people that we had working, we used to have a lot of folks that picked up a lot of hours, and what we have now is a lot of folks that pick up a shift or 2 in a month. You can tell by looking at the budget, our overtime is up. Overtime's up significantly, but our overall budget for staffing is okay, which means that the men and women that are here are doing a whole lot more with a whole lot less. I know this past year when we hired 3 new folks, one of the concerns was getting people while we can. This is not a unique problem to Madison. It's a problem that everybody has. We did reach out to the schools, Principal Brady. We are going to do some recruitment at the high school. We've got some young folks that are on the department now that are going to help represent. We're going to work with Auburn Career Center, Lakeland, and University Hospitals to try to have a kind of a education fair here, so that if we get some folks that may have an interest, we can set up a time and a place that they can come and talk about the career path. We're also talking, again, depending on what happens with COVID, part of this recruitment process may be having some of these high school seniors perhaps do a little bit of ride time with parental consent to try to capture. Some of the best young talent we have are kids that came right out of Madison High School. I think there's a lot of young folks that probably don't have a direction, and this is not a bad direction, so we're going to try to do that. The problem is that you're 3 to 4 years removed from somebody that helps you. So I'm just kind of putting it out here. Staff is probably the #1 concern now. We're trying to make efforts to do that. When the contracts come up, we'll try to address it again. I know everybody hates fixing problems with money, but money is one thing that keeps people here, and a lot of folks have left because of money. And money's one of those things that if they're here, that's great, we're providing the service. If we're not here, it doesn't cost us anything. So just so that the board's aware that's staff is kind of a big deal. I forgot my iPad today, so. The budget overall isn't bad. As Joanne said, there's some areas, that OPERS, it's kind of hard to guess how much somebody's going to necessarily get in hours so that we know what the budget for. But our tax revenues on budget, our EMS revenue is actually good. I think I mentioned last month that we're the highest in the county. Vehicles and equipment, all the maintenance has been taken care of. The new engine has to go back again. This is the 3rd time for a recall. The recall is a Cummins problem. So apparently Cummins has some problems with fuel rails. They have some problems with oil leaks. It's not necessarily the vendor we selected because everybody seems to use Cummins. Call volume, again, we were almost 300 calls for the month. We're on pace. Captain Meister, what do we figure, 3,500? Or just under 34. So we're on a record clip again. It doesn't seem to be slowing down. Station 2 project we talked about. One of the things that I was going to try to have for you today, and I didn't want to rush stuff, is the officers have looked at the vehicle replacement. We were supposed to do a squad this year. I think we're going to push that off first quarter of 2022. We're trying to extend the life. We have a 20-year-old Kawasaki Mule that we've used the crap out of this year with water rescues and looking for lost people. She served us well. It's time for her to be retired. We're looking at replacing it. We've looked at Kawasaki, Polaris, John Deere. I don't know if we got the Kubota quote, but right now we're looking at replacing it with a Polaris side-by-side with a new skid load in the back that allows us to secure a patient as well as carry the water that we need. Right now we have to take things in and out. Probably going to be about a $25,000 purchase that we'll bring before the board at the next meeting so that we can replace that and have something that's reliable. Other than that, the budget's good. There's no real areas of concern except staffing, but we're doing what we can to find people. Other than that, Cap, do you think of anything else? Captain Sopko?
Nope, nothing else that I got.
All right, I'd be happy to entertain any questions that you might have.
Any questions for the chief?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman. Chief, I was just wondering, the staffing issue really does, that's a huge challenge. I mean,
Yeah.
it is for everybody. Wondering, just thinking out loud, if the officers would put together some sort of advertisement or something, I'd be glad to put it out on the social media pages just to see if we can get some young, able-bodied people in Madison, like you say, the high school students, things like that. If we could get it out, social media seems to be the way to communicate with everybody. Nobody reads a newspaper anymore. But if we could get some things out, there's a number of Madison social media sites we could get on, and maybe even get something into the high school guidance counselors or something that they could get out once school starts. But I think that's our best bet is, and you're right, we're not going to get much use out of these 18-year-olds for a couple, 3 years. They're going to be in a huge learning curve, but we got to try and put our finger in the dike somewhere. I don't know what else to do.
We've got an ad pinned on our Facebook page. We can maybe blast that out again if you want to share that or copy and put it through
I'll be glad to.
wherever. Again, Dustin Sample reached out to Mr. Brady. We're going to probably meet with him in the next week or so. And that's the goal, is to get in, meet with guidance counselors, get in there at lunchtime just to be there so that if anybody has questions, we can talk to them. We're probably going to try to focus some on even underclassmen, because juniors may have an option of going to Auburn Career Center. One of the young ladies that we hired here recently did all of her stuff through high school. Again, you have a very young person with a lot of learning curve, but that's what Mentor's hiring. I mean, everybody, they're hiring anybody that they can hire. Right. So we need to kind of stir our own water, so to speak, and that's what we're going to try to work on. And again, the only reason I bring that up is these guys, I mean, there's a lot of days that we're at a minimum of 5, and it would be nice to raise that minimum to 6, but I don't know how you can do that without killing the men and women that are already here, because they're already picking up a lot of extra hours.
Is that on the firefighters' Facebook page?
It's on the Madison Fire Facebook page. I'll try to tag you with it here later.
Okay.
Tag
Do
me
the
also.
same to me,
Yeah.
please.
Yeah, that'd be great.
That way I'll put
send
it
it.
on MySpace.
And yeah, any way that we can get that message out. Yes, sir.
Yeah, Chief, I think that, I think that's a great idea to, push the high school, the Madison High School students. And I think you should, even though it's gonna be 3 or 4 years, you're looking at a staffing situation that's probably gonna be
At least that,
ongoing.
yeah.
And so, get a bunch. I mean, yeah, you're gonna have a big fallout, but the more you get that seem interested in the long run, it may be.
You throw it against the wall, right?
Right.
See what
Hey,
sticks.
that's
And we're
Cream ri-
fortunate,
cream
Captain
rise to the
Meister
top.
teaches at Auburn Career Center, and
Yeah.
firefighter Brush that works with us here
Mhm.
teaches at Auburn. So we've got folks that are tied into some of the career centers to try to
That's
pull
great.
people. But it's a real competitive market, and unfortunately, I know that it's not something from an administrative standpoint we want to talk about. The employees really they're driving the bus right now, and money drives the bus.
Yep.
You know, our pay isn't bad for the part-time folks. It could be better. But where do you draw I mean, you have to have people, but you have to be fiscally responsible. And right now, we're really, I think that's probably the biggest struggle we have. And we've used, I know my last shift I was here, we used Perry 2 or 3 times, and I'm very thankful that we have a department next door that's not busy, or not as busy as we are, that we can kind of lean on when we need to. Nursing homes still are a challenge, and Mr. Gautner, I know you sat with me at a meeting with the nursing homes.
Yep.
They're facing the same battle. The last time I heard, Community Care, which services this area, was short 27 paramedics. So they're battling the same staffing problem that we are, which doesn't allow them to serve some of the skilled nursing facilities, which means that we end up being that public safety net, which again taxes people even more. We're kind of stuck. But that's the goal to try to work on that and find some inroads for the future.
I think that's a great long-range plan, and I would continue with that, but I think we have to look at, what are we gonna do now? Because you're not the only one doing that, we're doing that, the township's doing that, Perry's doing, it doesn't matter who. We're all doing that, we're all taking from the colleges, high schools, I like the way that here, we think out of the box a lot. I think we have to continue that. How many part-timers do we have right now?
Captain Sopka, what do you think that number is now with Doug and George and potentially Margaret? Are we down to probably 20, 22?
Yeah, my guesstimation would be 20-ish.
And we've been as high as 40.
So what's our happy number here? What do we,
Probably 30 to 32 would be a really good happy number, but it also depends on, gone are the days where we have people that are working
right,
40 hours a week part-time.
exactly.
Because now we have guys that work here part-time, they work Concord part-time, they work Perry part-time, so what we end up getting is we get one slice of the pie instead of what we used to have where we had the whole pie. And again, when we started this combination department, we were one of the very few people that did it. And now, even Willoughby has part-timers. So we went from competing with like Mentor and us to now we're competing with everybody in the county.
Right. Well, before, when we just put these other full-timers on, that's what we were asking was, what's the happy number with putting additional full-timers on? And it was whatever 4 or whatever we put on. What? I mean,
Honestly,
what
if-
you do, you need to throw it out there like, hey, this is.
In
this
a
is what
dream-
we
in a
really
dream
need,
world-
5 full-timers, or whatever it is.
In a
That's what
dream
I-
world, I think we need to have a minimum of 6 full-timers per shift, which means 3 more. We have 15 full-timers now, and that's counting me. So if you take me out of the equation, we have 14. That would give us 6 people dedicated per shift. That means you have 3 people at each station, which bumps our minimum to what our minimum should be, 6. It's really not in the best interest of us to run 2 folks out of a firehouse. Then you're depending on part-time folks to fill some of the full-time time off as opposed to filling open spots on a calendar. Because we probably have the part-time staff to do that, but we really don't have the part-time staff to lean 40% of our staffing on.
So full-timers, the number would be what?
I think personally, and there's the 2 other officers here with Captain Meister, I think 18 would be a good number because that gives you 6 per shift, which gives you 3 per station.
So you're saying 3 additional to what
Three
we have
additional,
now?
3 additional from what we have now, I think puts us in a much better
Part-time.
place.
Oh,
Full-time.
you said full-time.
So, not to interrupt, I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
Yeah. My understanding is when we hired the last full-time, this was supposed to help to eliminate some of this problem.
And that was the goal of eliminating some of that problem. The problem is that since we've hired them, we've probably lost 6.
But not
Or
full-time,
s-
they were all part-time.
Right, right. So we've lost people and we have nobody to backfill. The problem is this department's been so dependent on part-time where you have no control over their hours.
Right.
And what we've seen, and Captain Sopko is way more involved in the schedule than I am, but I can tell you what I've seen is gone are the people working 40 hours a week, and what we have left is people working 40 hours a month. We've lost a lot of the people that eat a bunch of hours, and we are retaining the people that eat very few hours. And while we hired those 3 people that we hired, yes, that was to fill a void, but that was also to capture some young talent before we lost young talent. Because what we continue to do is lose talent. It's like the Madison Township. How many law enforcement officers do you lose this year? 2 so far?
Yep.
I mean, there is greener
lost 2.
grass in people's mind elsewhere, and Madison is like a great AAA farm team.
Yeah, it's been
We,
that way for years.
we get a lot of good people, they get a lot of great experience, and a lot of communities other than Madison benefit from that in the future. And these guys have the best intention in the world. I'm not gonna name names, but there's a handful of young folks that got full-time jobs, and they get the full-time job and they wanna be in Madison, and they get that job in Menor, or they get that job in Westlake, or they get that job in Willoughby, and they start collecting that full-time paycheck, and they start, especially the young kids, they start enjoying those 2 days off, and it takes a matter of maybe a year, and we see their involvement decrease and decrease and decrease until they realize, I'm making enough money to do what I want to do, and I have plenty of time to do it. I don't know that I want to commit that much more time. And I'm not blaming them. I mean, that's the cycle of Madison Fire, and it's been that way as long as we've had full time. So I think, if we can recruit, if we could find people, that's great. The problem is that the numbers are not there. And I'm not saying that we're going to come to you next month and say we need to hire 3 more full-timers, because we have to sit down and discuss whether we even have them in-house. There's a lot of folks now that are doing pure lateral transfers. Like, I can tell you right now that Maple Heights will hire a part-time guy. If he worked 1,000 hours a year, Maple Heights will hire them full-time, and they make good money. It's come down to where people aren't even testing. They're doing lateral transfers to try to find people. And when you do a lateral transfer, what is enticing them? Comes down to money.
Yep.
Absolutely.
I guess that's what I was looking for,
Yeah.
is that number, though, what's that number you're looking for with these 3 or 4, full.
Captain
you
Meister,
don't
do
have
you
to
think-
do it now,
you think-
but by
well,
the next meeting or something.
18, you think, probably a good full-time number? Captain Sopko? Lieutenant Fallhammer? I'm guessing that, again, I don't know, because I don't know. We may never have another full-timer apply again.
That's true. No, if you guys could just sit down
Yeah.
Well,
and
18 is a
just
good number,
brainstorm
but I
that.
think what everybody has to remember is, it's not a Madison, it's not a Northeast
Yeah.
Ohio, it's a, nationwide thing.
Mm-hmm.
How many people, do you think the city of Columbus gets to take a test today compared to what they did
Yeah.
5 years ago?
Yep.
That's the thing. The bottom line is people are not applying for the public safety jobs like they did in the past.
Yep, that's exactly right, Captain.
Yep.
The other problem, Chief, that we kind of haven't, we have talked about it, but not so much tonight, is your call volume's going up.
Right.
So is 18 full-time people 3 years from now going to be enough to handle the call volume the way it's
What-
increasing?
Honestly, I think that,
What we need to remember too is you're going to have retirements coming up.
Right.
So yes, you may look at today and say, well, 18, that's a lot of people. Well, you have 3 people that are gonna be eligible to retire in, the first half of 2023.
Wow. Wow.
And I can tell you, if the call volume continues to increase the way it is, you're probably going to have 3 people that are not going to want to stay much longer.
Right.
Yeah.
Gone are the days, when people used to say,
I'm one of them and I'm tired.
yeah. People used to say it must be nice to get paid to sleep at night, and I'm telling you, the fire service, the sleep is not there, and the workload is increasing. And that's the problem. Our call volume has gone up, and if you guys remember when Chief Lutz was here, at one point, we bolstered our staffing model. We had 10 guys on. We had 10 guys on, and we were running less than 3,000 calls a year.
Yep.
Today, we have 5 or 6 people on, and we're running 3,400 calls a year.
We're running a lot of squad though, during that period.
Well, but the numbers weren't, the numbers back, when we had 10 guys on, the numbers weren't close to what they are today. There's probably been a 15% increase in volume and a 50% reduction, a 40 or 50% reduction in staff. And that's one of the reasons why on the chief's report, the last page, I always show you where the run volume is, and I show overlapping runs. And we're typically between 30 and 35% of our calls are overlapping. And the reason I point that out is an overlapping call means that nobody's left. So about a third of our calls, when about a third of our calls happen, we end up leaving nobody in Madison. And I don't think the public necessarily understands that. They think we're staffed, and we are, but when you get 2 calls in a row, it's not uncommon to have 3 or 4. I think Captain Sopko, a couple shifts back, had 4 or 5, and we had Northwest Ambulance here, and we had Perry here, and we had our squads out. I think at some point the only way that corrects itself is we have to have some medical direction, and we have to have some legal guidance where we look at some of these things and say, you hurt your toe. This is not a life-threatening emergency. And I think one of the things maybe we can do is try to educate the community, like what is a 911 call? But that's a slippery slope.
Well, it is. Because then you can get all those people say, well, I'm a taxpayer and I pay for
Right.
the fire
Yeah.
levies and I should be able to get the service. I
Yep.
mean,
So I guess the long and short is we're working on it. We're trying to think outside the box. We're trying to figure out what that magic number is. I can tell you that I think from a budget standpoint, I mean, three more people is going to put us really in a pinch. But I'm not sure that we're going to have other options because I don't think that you can continue to press the men and women here to work in the type of overtime that they're working with the call volume that they're working without having some kind of adverse effects. We have guys that they work their 24-hour shifts and then they have 12 additional hours of overtime, or sometimes they've had an additional 24. So we have people that are here 48 hours, 24 hours off, and back for 24 more hours. And while I appreciate that they step up and do that, I don't know that that's a sustainable solution to the current problem. So in the short term, Mr. Adams, to answer your question, thank the guys that are here for stepping up. That's the short-term solution. We just have to figure out a mid-range solution and then the long-term solution.
That's why I say that's not something that's sustainable.
Right.
And that's why I think we need to address this sooner than later. In Painesville, we just got hit by COVID in my department, and we have about 7 people out in one day.
wow.
Don't say
And
that.
was a whole shift. So, and that just happened this week. So, I these things happen. That's why I would like to be ahead of the game here, and I would just like to know what the numbers are. I don't care if it's 5 people you're saying full-timers you need, or 7. I don't know. That's why,
I think
we're
3's the
asking.
start, but we'll have that conversation. And the other thing is I think we need to plan. I mean,
Exactly.
this whole I-90 corridor has the potential to change the
Exactly.
world.
Exactly. So,
Very good.
thank you.
Any other questions for the chief?
No, sir.
Okay, we'll be moving into the closing public portion. Any closing board comments? Okay, next fire board meetings are September 15th, 2021 at 7 p.m. and October 20th, 2021 at 7 p.m. No further business. Have a motion to adjourn.
Got a motion?
I'll second, Mr. Chairman.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Vest.
Yes.
Mr. Adams.
Yes.
Mr. Anderson.
Yes.
Mr. Gauntner.
Yes.
And Mr. Lee.
Yes.
Hey, congratulations
Oh,
on your
thank you.
reelection. All you gotta do is vote for yourself, right?
I know.
Yeah. And,
time is it?
Yeah, I've been-
Seven